like everybody else, alone, in spite of the fact that some people still think that they know him. But fuck him, he knows the code. It's not about the salary, it's all about reality and making some noise, making a story, making sure his click stays up. That means when he puts it down, Toc's picking it up. Let's go.
Who the hell is he anyway? He never really talks much, never concerned with status, but still even him starstruck. Humble through opportunities given despite the fact that many misjudge him cause he makes a living from writing raps. Put it together himself, now the picture connects. Never asking for someone's help, or to get some respect. He's only focused on what he wrote. His will is beyond reach, and now it all unfolds through the skill of an artist.
This is 20% skill, 80% fear, be 100% clear, cause Ryu was ill. Who would've thought he'd be the one that set the West in flames? Then I heard him wreck it with the crystal method, name of the game. Came back, dropped Megadeth, took him to church. I like Bleach, man. Ryu had the stupidest verse. This dude is the truth. Now everybody giving them guest spots and stocks through the roof. I heard he fucking with S-Dot.
This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
They call him Ryu, he's sick and he's spitting fire and Mike got him out the dryer, he's hot. Found him in Fort Minor with Top with a fucking nihilist porcupine. He's a prick, he's a cop. The type women wanna be within rappers, hope he gets shot. 8 years in the making, patiently waiting to blow. Now the record with your notice taking over the globe. He's got a partner in crime, this shit is equally dope. You won't believe the kind of shit that comes out of this kid's throat.
He's not your everyday on the block. He knows how to roll with what he's got, making his way to the top. He often gets a comment on his name. People keep asking him, was it given that birth or does it stand for an acronym? No, he's living proof. Let him rock in the booth. He'll get you buzzing quicker than a shot of vodka with juice. Him and his crew are known around as one of the best, dedicated to what they do and give 100%.
Forget Mike, nobody really knows how or why he works so hard. It seems like he's never got time because he writes every note and he writes every line. And I've seen him at work when that light goes on in his mind. It's like a design is written in his head every time before he even touches a key or speaks in a rhyme. And those motherfuckers he runs with, the kids that he signed, ridiculous, without even trying. How do they do it? This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
Schumpeter. More than just a game. Video games are behind the latest fad in management. Despite their reputation for violence, not all video games are about zapping aliens or shooting zombies. Plenty offer gentler amusements, like tending a virtual farm or playing a relaxing round of golf. And a few take their inspiration from business and management. Players can assume the role of a football team boss in Championship Manager or an aspiring transport magnate in Railroad Tycoon. Even the evil overlord of the 1997 classic, Dungeon Keeper, must make sure to pay wages to his vampires, dragons and trolls, lest the workers rebel. As video games have grown from an obscure hobby to a $67 billion industry, management theorists have begun to return the favour. Video games now have the dubious honour of having inspired their own management craze. Called gamification, it aims to take principles from video games and apply them to serious tasks. The latest book on the subject, For the Win, comes from Kevin Werbach and Dan Hunter from the Wharton Business School and the New York Law School, respectively. Gamification proceeds from the observation that, to non-players, a lot of what gamers do looks suspiciously like hard work. Improving a character in World of Warcraft, an online fantasy game, is a never-ending treadmill. The most dedicated players sign up for weekly sessions with 24 other players, which can last for several hours, vital if they wish to defeat the toughest monsters. Jokes about the game being a second job are common. Other gamers will spend hours trying to shave fractions of a second from a record lap time in a driving game, or chasing a higher score in Angry Birds. All this is fascinating to management gurus who come from a world in which people must usually be paid to undertake repetitive tasks. Games not only subvert that rule, they invert it completely. Players will happily fork out good money for the privilege of being allowed to attempt arbitrary jobs. What if, say the gamifiers, it were possible to identify the special sauce responsible for this strange effect, extract it, and then slather it onto business problems? Can the compulsive power of video games be harnessed to motivate workers? In For the Win, readers are told of an internal Microsoft competition to hunt down translation mistakes in its Windows operating system. Points were assigned for spotting mistakes and totted up on a company-wide leaderboard. The mixture of instant feedback via the points and competition through the leaderboard provided a powerful spur. The entire Japan office took a day off from other work to hunt down mistranslations. Great for motivation, but perhaps not for productivity. LiveOps, an American firm whose employees do call centre work from home, uses leaderboards and points to boost productivity, while a series of badges, modelled on video game achievements given for completing certain tasks, denote mastery of certain skills. Games can be used for enthusing customers too. Fitocracy, a fitness website, lets its users set up duels with each other to see who can get the better jogging time. An escalating series of levels, a concept invented to measure a character's power in role-playing games, is a frequent feature of gamification schemes. Does gamification merit the hype that has quickly surrounded it? The idea is only a couple of years old, but it has already spawned a host of breathless conferences, crowded seminars, and inevitably TED Talks. Some video game designers are opposed to the idea on principle, arguing that gamification is really a cover for cynically exploiting human psychology for profit. They compare many of the games beloved by the gamifiers, such as World of Warcraft, to slot machines, with rewards carefully doled out in order to keep players hooked. Others argue that gamification usually misses the point, focusing on incidental features of video games, such as points, badges and instant feedback, while ignoring the deeper features, like being able to explore freely a virtual world, that actually make them fun. And the benefits, the critics say, are likely to be transient. When a player gets bored of a video game, it is easy to buy another. When workplace games become dull, they are not so easy to put aside. Level-headed management types, meanwhile, say that many of the aspects of gamification that do work are merely old ideas in trendy new clothes. High score lists for sales staff, for example, have been around for decades, as have Employee of the Month contests. Airlines were giving points and perks to loyal customers long before anyone had heard of Farmville. Messrs. Wearback and Hunter accept much of this criticism. Indeed, they go out of their way to warn aspiring gamifiers of the many pitfalls they face. Trying to enliven boring, unskilled work is risky, they say. Presenting cutesy badges to call centre staff can easily come across as patronising rather than motivating. Workers already toil for a reward, money, and will be suspicious of attempts to introduce a new form of compensation that costs their bosses nothing. The authors cite psychological experiments suggesting that intrinsic rewards, the enjoyment of a task for its own sake, are the best motivators, whereas extrinsic rewards, such as badges, levels, points, or even in some circumstances money, can be counterproductive. The problem is that after the authors have finished instructing their readers in what not to do, the concept of gamification is left looking somewhat threadbare. That is a shame, because their central idea, that the world might be a better place if work was less of a necessary drudge and more of a rewarding experience in itself, is hard to argue with. But then, perhaps it is called work for a reason.
Burst into flame. Burst into flame. Burst into flame. Burst into flame. flame. Burst into flame. Burst into flame.
Bye.